Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian from Trade Algo. Welcome back on this President's Day, Monday, February 17th, 2025. The market is currently closed, so I thought I'd make a video for y'all on the market updates and what to possibly, potentially expect moving forward. I'm the gentleman that hosts the Day Trade with Brian tab all day long. In this chat is where I release trades. I do encourage you before coming in there asking questions that are already addressed in this document to read this document and know it well. I post it multiple times a day in here so that you get acclimated as soon as humanly possible. All your answers are in here. 99% of your questions are addressed in advance here so that you kind of understand how I deliver trades in here, which are day trades. You go under live sessions, it's Day Trade with Brian. Unfortunately, there is no room called Swing Trade with Brian, otherwise I'd open one. I'm pretty good at day trading, have an 80 to 90% success rate. If you have the time, of course, if you have the time. I know some folks are limited on time, so sincere apologies for my limited expertise. But anyway, I did want to show you what I'm looking at for SPY come tomorrow when the market is open on Tuesday. We're going to review SPY, which is the ETF for the S&P 500. We're going to review QQQ, the NASDAQ, and I'll review Bitcoin because it does have implications on certain stocks like MSTR, which is a popular one, MicroStrategy, Riot, Mara, Coinbase, which just released earnings. So we'll get into those three, the two ETFs and Bitcoin, and I'll tell you what I'm seeing. So with SPY, ladies and gentlemen, we broke a significant resistance. I always connect body to body, and inside this document, I do have some master classes on page 7, one of which is how to draw support and resistance lines like Brian, right? If you want to learn supply and demand, it's there also. Again, this document is posted multiple times, a few times a day in the live chat. All you got to do is click on that link. So SPY, I always draw body to body. I never draw wick to wick. Everyone's a little bit different. Do what's in your best interest. So I drew from the body of this candle to the body of this candle here and just connected the line. As Shane says in our mentorship program, a 7-year-old can connect the dots. That's really what we're doing here. And you can see we got a massive candle close above this line. So this line, which was once resistance on this side of the fence, is now support on this side of the fence. So we're at some point in time going to come back and retest this as support before moving higher. So I don't know what day of the week is going to be bullish or bearish, nor do I care. A lot of beginner traders, I'm going to try to gear away from saying newbie because I want to make sure I'm being respectful, but most beginner traders are always trying to predict the market. I don't know when it's going to pop up. And if you just start taking a long right away, or buying call options right away, and then your position is down because, you're trying to predict the market and saying it's going to go up, you might sell at exactly where we're buying, right? So I react to the market. This is where I would buy, right? I will react by calls of support and by puts of resistance is how we react to the market. I never try to predict it, right? Because it's a possibility we never come down and retest this and just move straight up, right? And if it moves straight up, that's great for momentum traders that are trading the momentum upwards. But as a reversal trader, this is where I would want price to reverse. I'm going to pretty much buy calls on red candles, which is usually opposite to the beginner mindset. You usually want to chase the price with calls with green candles and puts with red candles. So just be careful of that. I want to make it aware that if we do get a red day on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, it could be bullish, as backwards as that sounds, right? I'll be mega bullish somewhere around the 605.75 to 606 level is where I'm probably going to swing some calls, as long as there's conditions to this trade. We don't get a candle close beneath this line on the daily time frame, which would invalidate the line, meaning I'd have to take that line off my charts and redraw it, or completely take it off altogether, right? So that's one thing that can throw off the trade, right? Which can happen. Market movers sometimes like manipulating. They're like, too many people are trying to go for that retest, that breakout and retest and then move higher. So we're just going to screw everybody's plans up by getting a candle close beneath that line. But I just want you to be aware of that sloping trend line so that, if you get a big red candle in the morning and you buy puts, not being aware of this line, you're going to be unfortunately hugely disappointed. So I'm just putting it on your radar so that you don't make that newbie mistake that most newbies make. Shorting or buying puts at a support. We buy calls at support, not puts at support. So 605.75 to 606 is the level I'd be looking for SPY. However, let me see if we're still respecting a daily resistance, which is interesting, which is why I think we'll come back down to retest at some point. If we see here, these are daily time frames, so each of these candles represents 1 day of time frame. We had a green day, green day, green day, and then we reversed sharply right there. That's typically where I draw my support and resistance. This would be the resistance, right? And you can see that we rejected, boom, rejected, boom, could not close above that resistance. And in fact, we went up to form a new all-time high and still close under that resistance. So until we flip 609.73, I can't be bullish on this. I know most beginners see a bunch of green candles and they want to catch a piece of the pie, but this is precisely why I don't momentum trade, right? I need that resistance to be broken first with a candle close on the daily time frame above 609.73 for me to be bullish. I cannot be bullish at these levels just in general, but also because of all-time highs. There is no resistance up here, guys. It is open skies. It's open season for SPY. So if it pushes upwards on Tuesday, my apologies, I'm going to be cautious, right? I'm going to wait for support levels. And I might even wait for the 607.65 level, which is a 15-minute support along with a 1-hour support. So it's kind of like a double support, right? If you are I use this analogy quite often in my teachings on my live stream. If you're a trapeze artist flying through the air doing flips, doesn't it make sense to have a double safety net instead of just one by itself? We're always looking for double, triple, quadruple supports, double, triple, quadruple resistances, right? Double supports for our calls, double, triple, maybe even quadruple places where 1 point converges for our resistances for our puts, right? So if we do fail, I might get a little bit of a bounce. Keep in mind, those are low time frames. We'll get somewhat of a bounce here at 607.65, and then we'll probably test it, and then we'll get the mega bounce here around 604.75-ish, 605-ish. So that's what I'm looking at for SPY. There's different levels to be made aware of, right? Not all levels are created equal. This is a daily sloping trend line. The bigger the time frame on the charts, the more respected things are. These are lower time frames. I don't know how big of a bounce we'll get, but again, we react to the market. So I would buy calls at support there, but then I'd be a little bit quicker to take profit around the 607.65 level because it's a lower time frame. I don't know. Maybe it might bounce huge from there. Again, I don't try to predict the market. I just, if I do get into a call right here at these low time frame supports, that double that I just talked about, I'd be scaling out, leaving runners. And if it keeps on going higher, that's a happy coincidence. I don't try to predict the market at all. So there's a couple places to be made aware of, that sloping trend line and this double support right here, which are, again, lower time frames, the hour and the 15-minute time frame. So that's what I'm pretty much looking at for SPY. I don't want to long if we just keep on going higher. Remember, we need that daily candle close above 609.73. So hopefully you're taking notes and jotting down those levels with the conditions beneath each, right? So, of course, I'm going to give them as day trades if and when I see them here in the chat. Just please be aware of how we take profit, where we put our stop loss. Don't just blindly take the trades until you know and read this document, or you can use the analysis on your own if you feel proficient enough to execute the task on your own. Now, Q's, probably something similar. Let's go to QQQ. Hasn't formed all-time highs yet, which is interesting. All-time highs are at the top of this supply zone. Let me just go ahead and I don't know why I don't have it graphed. But what makes me nervous around all-time highs, and I probably should have said this for SPY before moving on, is that when we're so close to all-time highs, ladies and gentlemen, what the market movers like doing is giving us a new all-time high so that we can get the headline. Kind of like, in the olden times, like it's front page of the newspaper. NASDAQ at new all-time highs, right? It's just to get the headline. But keep in mind, it's still resistance. All-time highs are resistance, ladies and gentlemen, because both the algorithms, the machines, and the big money, the humans with really, really deep pockets, and retail, all three of us, if we could have pushed it a single penny beyond 539.18 here on NASDAQ, we would have. If we could have, we would have, but we couldn't. So for whatever reason, we don't have to understand the reason, 539.18 is a resistance. So after we get our headline, I don't know when we'll reject, but we typically reject after we get that headline. Sometimes it's 1 day after, sometimes it's 2 days after. Sometimes just to trip people up and get a liquidity grab, it's 3 days later. But at some point in time, it does reject underneath 539.18, which again, another testament to don't try to predict the market by grabbing puts. If you can't stomach this weight, right? Because there's no, that's when the market movers see it, there's too many people trying to predict that as resistance, they will drag it out longer because they can see your market orders, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I react to the market. How do I react to the market with all-time highs? I'll wait for it to come down after it's done dancing up here and that first 15-minute candle close back underneath it, then we'll take a put because that's the confirmation we're waiting for. I don't have to sit through all of this, if that makes sense. Keep in mind, this is also a supply zone on the daily time frame. There was a huge aggressive drop here. After aggressive drops, we go from the opposite color candle from the base to the wick. So I was dropped from the body to the wick. Again, the supply and demand video is on page 7 of the guidelines document posted in the live chat multiple times a day. Not so many times a day where it bothers the members, but not too little times a day where you're not going to be scrolling up the chat indefinitely, right? I try to post this like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times a day. Not too much and not too little. So I don't think we're going to smash through a daily supply zone on the first test and just keep on going. That's very, very, very extremely unlikely. But it is possible. Nothing's impossible in the market. It's just unlikely in the game of probabilities. But I don't trade all-time highs. Because again, I'm a reversal trader, there's no resistance above here, but just keep in mind, things to keep in mind if you're a momentum trader, if you're a volume trader, if you're a breakout trader, if you like supply and demand, if you're a supply and demand trader, these are ideas to put on your radar. But where I do expect somewhat of a bounce, for reversal is when we start getting red candles to the downside, say red candle, red candle, red candle, I do expect somewhat of a bounce here at 535.47. 53547. That is a 4-hour support that was just newly formed on Friday that we haven't tested yet. Many of you guys know I love the first test of a newly formed support, especially a high time frame support. It'd be better if it was a daily support, but a 4-hour support, we only get 2 of those candles a day, I'll take it. So 535.47, if and when we do come down after forming all-time highs, could be Tuesday, could be Wednesday, could be Thursday. Heck, could even be Friday. That's where I'm going to take some kind of call. And the thing with taking these 4-hour supports, many of you guys know I have what's called a technical analysis Bible inside the document I keep on ranting and raving about over and over. These are rules or commandments of technical analysis. They're not mine. They're just rules of technical analysis in general. There is a 4-hour support there, but there is something to be aware of for the folks that are taking this analysis independently to make their own. Rule 13 of my technical analysis Bible is the bigger the time frame you're making a trade from, the wider you have to make your stop, or the more room or time you have to give your trade. So what that means is, in layman's terms, in simple language, is yes, 535.47 is a 4-hour support, but that means it's a 4-hour support. The 4-hour candle after 9:30 a.m. Eastern closes at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So it can come down under support, grab this 1-hour support, 1-hour support, 1-hour support, and then before 1:30 p.m., since this is a 4-hour candle, come back and then make the gain. So for the folks just taking a call right at 4-hour support, you have to be prepared for some downside because it's a big time frame candle. Right? The bigger the time frame you're making a trade from, the wider you have to make your stop, or the more room or time you have to give your trade. And this kind of makes sense. I'm just putting it on the radar so you know what to expect. That if you take a call at 535.47, look at these 1 hour supports. They're so close to each other. Sometimes what the market movers like doing is let's just grab all of them before we go up, right? But most people, if they enter calls here not understanding how to play the bigger time frame supports, and they're minus 60% here, not understanding where those 1 hour supports are, they let go of their position here and they're like, oh, I should have held. I should have held. Because now it's a 200, 300, 400% return. So just be aware of that, right? This is a common beginner mistake that I see quite often. This is places where I would average, probably. So I'd enter a really tiny position at 535.47. Again, if you're making trades on your own. I'm going to walk you through the trade if I take it and it's an official trade. And guide you through it, but I don't know when it's going to hit. Again, we're not here to predict the market, we're here to react to it. So I don't know when that orange line will hit, but I'll probably average in here at 534.22, and lastly at 533-ish. This is probably going to be 20% of my position at the 4 hour support, 40% of my position at 534.22, and that last 40% chunk here at 533-ish. And then we'll watch the, I don't even have to wait till the orange line for the contracts to be all green, but it'll be if I can stomach a hold and, kind of, because we don't go straight up anymore. We kind of do this kind of janky process of doing this before it goes up in the last, 30 minutes of the 4 hour candle close. If you have the stomach to hold, could be really profitable this week. So it's pretty much the same thing as SPY, right? Another possibility, which I don't think will happen, but can happen, is there is, just like SPY, a sloping trend line here on the daily. This is a daily time frame. Just connect the middle of this candle here to the middle of this candle here. You can see that we rejected nicely, but now we got a candle close. What if the market movers are just such, what's a good healthy G-rated word? Meanies. I don't know what, I don't want to curse on this video, but let's just say we go here all the way to this 4 hour support and then just grab all of these supports. See how they're all so close to each other? I mean, really, grab them all, and then before the 4 hour candle closes on this support and this support, I mean, that would be really, really ugly of them, but I've seen stranger things before. So, I might even have to roll back what I just recently said. This is an ideal situation, 535.47. I'll probably, put 40% of my position here at 533 and the last 40% of my position here at 530, actually. So I'm going to have to amend what I just said because this is also a possibility, and you have to be prepared for all possibilities. This would be really ugly of them to do, but not a stretch to imagine. Rejecting from the top of a daily supply zone, this is also possible. So here's the ideal situation for NASDAQ. Like this, here's the ugly possibility that could be the case, like this, right? So I probably put the other 40% of my position here around 529.5-ish, right? But again, if you guys are following me in the chat, I always tell exactly how I get in and then how I get out. I'm out of 20% of my original position here after averaging it. I'm out of half of my total position with my stop loss at break even, etc., etc., etc. So just make sure that if you are following me here in this chat, in order for, not to be answering the same questions over and over, I'd love for you guys to get acclimated and know this, which will take a little bit of work. In order to be in sync with this room, a little bit of work is necessary, right? I wish I can answer everyone's question over and over. It's not personal that I don't, but if it's already addressed in here, that means you have a little bit of work to do if I'm not answering. It's not personal, just making it abundantly clear. I love each and every one of you. But lastly, Bitcoin. So Qs and SPY have a little bit of a same kind of setup. I like SPYs a little bit more because the sloping trend line is closer, and Qs are a little bit more leveraged and pronounced than SPY, but both have almost the exact same setup. That's sloping trend line on the daily, and we want a retest of that sooner or later. Now, Bitcoin, this thing is just, it's melting people's minds on Twitter, aka X. This is a daily time frame, guys, and this is one of the flattest periods of time I've ever seen crypto in. Starting from over here, this red candle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Just barcoding. Doesn't that look exactly like a barcode? We don't trade barcodes, ladies and gentlemen, unless you're scalping the lower time frames. This is ugly price action. Very simple, kind of crappy analysis to say there's nothing here, but that's the truth. I'm not going to lie to everybody and say, oh, well, we could maybe kind of sort of see. That's where we get into trouble, when you start squeezing square pegs mentally into circular holes, and trying to jam them through. That's one of the pitfalls of looking at the lower time frames, ladies and gentlemen. I like the high time frames. It makes things abundantly clear. The bigger the time frame on the charts, the more respected everything's going to be on your charts. And the smaller the time frame on the charts, the less respected. Not to say that they don't work or they're not possible to do anything with it. It's just that be careful. Even the 4-hour time frame is looking pretty flat. I like that it's holding a 4-hour demand zone that was created on the 3rd of this month. We have yet to invalidate that demand zone, so we might get a pop going into Tuesday the 18th, tomorrow. So I think that the height is going to be 98,370, 98,370 before we'll get smacked down again, because that seems to be where Bitcoin really has a high resistance here. Boom, 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 boom. We have trouble with this area. 98, whatever I said, 98,370-ish. Don't quote me to the exact penny or dollar. I'm not a robot, unfortunately. So where I see a really confident trade, though, ladies and gentlemen, is around the 93,730 level. 93,730-ish level. And I put extreme confidence trade. I even have this little circle like, if and when we get there, it's pretty much saying, please don't ignore me. This is a awesome trade. And what the implications for that for Mara, Riot, Coin is that you would likely want to make calls or long or buy the token outright, or the shares outright, if and when we get here, because typically the crypto stocks move in tandem with Bitcoin specifically. Bitcoin is king. So if Ethereum's moving but not Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the one that moves the stocks the most. So again, puts on stocks related to crypto around 98,370, and calls, which is strong support. I don't know who trades crypto in here, but you can also use the information for that independently on your own. We don't trade crypto at Trade Algo, but calls on, possibly on stocks like Coinbase, Riot, Mara, at 93,730-ish. We did go a fair bit below before we popped up and made a huge. So just keep that in mind, that see how we bounced here and we went a little bit below, not a little bit, a lot below before we did that mega run. That can also happen here. So just keep that in mind. The next level where I get super duper bullish is 92,540. $92,540. All right. So as always, I typically play things ear by ear. I buy calls as support and puts at resistance, and until I hear these alarms go off, I don't really look at charts. The alarms will tell me when we're close to our supports for calls or close to our puts for, close to our resistances for puts. All right, guys. So not much really going on in the futures market. I might start adding this segment into our analysis moving forward. Just a lot of sideways chop, right? So this is ES. This is pretty much the equivalent of SPY, and NQ, the equivalent of NASDAQ. Just kind of moving sideways, and no surprise there. It's President's Day, low volume kind of day. So gold had a nasty tumbling down on Friday, but now just moving sideways as well. So I do want to grab gold around 2,900. It'll probably keep recycling that support again because the market loves round numbers. So 2,900. If and when we get there, I'd love to take a long on gold again. After I posted this chart in the charts Telegram channel for Trade Algo, you might want to ask Dane how to enter that Telegram. Dane at TradeAlgo.com, DANE at TradeAlgo.com. But there was a bullish wedge we broke out of, got to the top of the wedge. Our target hit beautifully, and then we rejected and formed a 4-hour supply zone here. So I'm expecting us to slowly start climbing again this week after we nick 2,900 if and when we get there. That's why I have this kind of price label there, 2,900, and then we'll form a very slow higher highs and higher lows before another rejection at that 4-hour supply zone that was newly formed on Friday after that aggressive drop. Alrighty guys, that's it for me. Hope you enjoy your holiday the rest of the day with your family, friends, pets. Have a wonderful and blessed day, and I'll see you guys in the next one as always. Everyone, as usual, take care.